So this is a video review of Takara Lost Age Optimus Prime Rusty version. This is a repaint and a mild remold of the Age of Extinction Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. So as you can see, it's the classic flat-nosed truck, but unlike the Hasbro version, which is all of the standard Optimus Prime colours, this one is painted in this gorgeous rusty colour. I mean, if you look close at that, you can see that basically it's all been printed on, because you can see a little bit of the print, dappling effect from the print. But yeah, so it's done as a really nice rusty style. You've got your rusty wheels, rusty tanks there, and then there's some nice, I don't know if you can see that, that's some really lovely washes that they've put in here. Overall, it's just a really nice, really neat deco. Really gets across the fact that Prime was ever so slightly battered when he turns up at the beginning of the film. I think, to be honest, well, part of the reason why I ended up picking this one up is because it just looked that much nicer than the Invasion Mode Prime, just with all these crazy colours. There's also a Nemesis Prime variant, but I think that one's probably going to end up being hideously expensive. But anyway, so yeah, what I'll do is I will transform this from this lovely truck mode. The transformation's quite interesting in places. It's fairly simple. I mean, you can see here on the back, those are your fake chest windows. Yeah, it does cheat, but I think because of how nice it looks, I can fully accept this cheating. Anyway, so what I'll do is do a fairly quick transformation, and yeah, and then we'll take a look at the robot mode. Okay, so here we have Prime in his robot mode. As you can see, the rustiness carries on. You've got some lovely sprays that they've put on to give him a nice hint of being rusted. You can see on his knees as well. That's the little washes that they managed to put in. And on his chest, he has lovely, slightly rusty flames. Yeah, and yeah, I think he looks great. I do really love this head sculpt. I mean, if you can see here, let me see if I can get some light on there. Look at those piercing blue eyes. Terrifying. They're not from the yeah, they're not from the light piping though, which is a bit weird, but it's something Takara seemed to like doing, just putting paint on their figures. Now, he does have a crazy amount of articulation, really, for a general release Transformer. I was quite pleased with that. That's what's really impressed me with this one. I mean, he is incredibly pretty for a movie Prime. And that's not something I ever thought I was going to say. And to be honest, he does remind me quite a bit of the Transformers Prime. So I'm quite yeah, I think that's why I like him so much. Anyway, so he has a lovely ball jointed head. There's a neck joint there, which I still haven't worked out why it actually exists, but it does mean that he gets a lot more range of posing out of it. He's got a nice ratchety shoulder joint, full rotation. I mean, it is quite impressive. He has a bicep swivel, which I hadn't been inspecting. He actually has a elbow joint, but not at the elbow joint, so that's where the elbow joint should be, but actually it's based on this pin. It's an element of the transformation. It does mean his arm looks a bit goofy when it's not slightly bent, which is a bit weird. His hands will swivel. They're quite difficult. They're quite tough to swivel. You can actually get some movement out of them. That's something which is, you know, fairly rare. He's got a waist swivel, and then nice hip joints that allow a lot of range. Now they are a ratchet, but they don't seem to ratchet. They don't make any noise when you ratchet them. And then he's got proper range. You can do the splits if you so wish. And he actually has up here a cut to provide some movement in the leg. The knees got some really good range. When you consider that the knees don't actually, like, none of this really is used for the transformation, so this is just articulation put in because they wanted articulation in this figure. The only ones that actually are really used are around the arm joints. And yeah, and this is the really cool bit. He actually has some ankle articulation. Now, I'm not always that bothered about ankle articulation, but it really does come in handy if you want to get a nice decent pose on him, and this means that Prime has quite a bit of range standing. Yeah, so he can get some really good action poses out of this Prime, and I think that is just amazing for a toy line, which I mean I'm just not really being impressed with the aesthetic of the movies, but this one is just a real joy. He really is. Yeah. I mean, I wish I could say he had that many problems. I mean, he doesn't really. In terms of the transformation, you've got the fake chest, but we're kind of getting used to these kind of effects. The weird elbow joint. That's about it, really. I mean, like, you know, I mean, I suppose you could complain about that not clicking into place, but I mean, it stays fairly solid. Yeah, I mean, he's just a really impressive transformer, and he has these new plug holes that they keep putting on here, and that means he fits a Tamashii stage, and that is really impressive. You get him in some really neat running poses. You know, you can have him running full bore, especially with his with these ankle tilts, and you know, they are really nice. I mean, it's very weird to be sat here complimenting a movie figure. Now, he does come with weapons, because obviously, you know, you're not Optimus Prime if you don't come with weapons, especially in the movies. It's a shotgun. I believe this is a shotgun for Megatron from the third movie, is it? And it's a missile launcher, but it does look really neat without the missile in. You've got almost a kind of boring of the weapon there. Now, there is a problem with this weapon. I mean, it looks quite cool, but it's this. That's the grip of the gun. There's the trigger. That's the grip of the gun. This is not the handle for this gun. And it means that when you stick it in his hand, he's kind of it's just floating there. It is a real shame, and this is probably the letdown for the figure, to be honest. This gun doesn't really suit it, especially in vehicle mode. In the vehicle mode, there's no way you can seem to put this. I've seen some pictures that show the gun sticking out the back of the vehicle mode, but yeah, you can't really do that very easily, not without just joining it or just gluing it in place, which wouldn't surprise me if that's what they did. But yeah, so forget about the weapons, but yeah, this guy, I mean, he is just spectacular. He really is. I don't know, I think the head sculpt is different to the standard Hasbro Evasion mode. I think that comes with a face, not the face plate. But with the face plate, I mean, he just looks really mean, and just really battered with all of his lovely colours. So yeah, if you can get hold of this guy in the Rusty Prime version, I really recommend it. I think this is just such a unique decoration, and I kind of hope that it goes on a bit more of a general release, maybe in the US, just to make it a lot easier to get hold of, because it's a real shame if people don't get to have fun with this one. I mean, the standard Evasion mode's probably fine, but yeah, this one is a very nice looking action figure, and a real surprise from Takara. I do think that I'm probably going to be spending more money on Takara's Lost Age figures than I ever will Hasbro's, especially since Hasbro's aren't really that easy to get hold of in the UK. Unless you live quite close to a Toys R Us, you're stuck with the quick changes, which is not much fun. Anyway, so that's the review. If you can find this guy and don't have to pay too much, I mean, he retails, I mean, he's Voyager, so he retails, I think from Japan he's probably about 30-40 quid, but he is really worth it. And if you can get the Invasion mode Optimus Prime cheap, then yeah, do, because it's just a lovely mould. Even if with the different colours, it's still a really nice toy, a real action-packed toy, which is something you don't see very often from the actual main manufacturers themselves. You tend to see them more in the third-party stuff, but yeah. So yeah, so this guy is awesome, and you should see if you can track him down. Alright, anyway, thanks for watching.